Hello and welcome to Shed Talks podcast. I'm Naomi Williams-Roberts and this is my co-host Josh Redford.
Coming up on today's pod, ahead of Farm Safety Week, we speak to RABI about how their new app is helping save lives and a farmer who has some simple but sound advice to prevent injury.
It's very, very important to have some knowledge and some skill for bystanders and those first responders to do something in those first few minutes before the emergency services arrive.
And then over to everybody's favourite, the Westminster team, for the latest political update as the NFU launches its 5-point plan for food resilience for the next Prime Minister.
This plan has gone out to all Labour MPs today, alongside an open letter to candidates calling on the next Prime Minister to work with the industry and build a food system fit for the future.
Plus, what is it like to transition back into the family farm and be given responsibility for developing a poultry unit? We speak to one 25-year-old producer to find out how.
It's such a sense of pride when you see it with your farm name on it. You can just stand there and go, I've done that. And compared to what we eat as a country, it's a very, very small volume, but you've given that bit of food for, when I was growing for M&S, those 100,000 Sunday roast dinners.
So, Josh, what's new in your world?
It's a bit hot, isn't it? Are we allowed to say that? It's blimey, it's been hot recently. How's it over in Wales?
You're a typical farmer you are. You're just complaining. Sometimes it's too wet, sometimes it's too dry. I went to IKEA on the weekend and I felt really sorry. I was talking to a guy there and IKEA doesn't have air conditioning, whereas many of our farmers' tractors will. And he said that one of the staff members there fainted because it was so hot.
Yeah, I was out talking farming. I was out on a farm walk last night, and there's some very stressed-looking maize over here in the east. So, I think the dry weather is starting to bite a little bit. But I'm assuming most cereal wheat guys don't want any rain at the moment.
Do you know what loves the sun?
Go on.
Pumpkins love the sun. And they're out there with their leaves, just loving life.
Rumour has it you've now got yours in the ground.
Oh, they're in the ground. Yeah, they went in first week of June. So they're all up and they're just going to have 4 months now of just chilling before the carnage starts in the autumn. Talking of carnage, what's happening in Westminster? Why is everybody leaving?
The meme, not another one, comes to mind. It's absolute carnage. At the time of recording, Nigel Farage has resigned as an MP and is restanding, and nobody wants to stand against him apart from Count McBinface. So I don't know what's going to happen. Well, by the time this pod's landed, we might know a bit more, but it all feels a bit of carnage at the moment.
Well, I feel like the most secure member of Parliament, which I've seen online as well, is the cat. How many Prime Ministers has that cat seen?
Is it about 5? Is it more than that?
Oh, I think it's like 6 or 7. The other thing I saw or was told, which we'll have to check with the Westminster team, is when a Prime Minister resigns, they get to keep the plinth that they resign on. And I don't know if that's true, so we're going to have to check with the Westminster team. Otherwise, I'm just coming up with false news.
What do you do with it? Can you imagine the size of house you'd need to have to schnoodle that away so it didn't look out of place?
I was trying to think of a purpose for it, to be honest.
Right, so on with the pod. We've got some great guests lined up for this week, haven't we?
We do have some great guests. We have RABI's Head of Business Development, Lucy Saker, and also an agricultural mechanic, Ben Smith, to talk about farm safety and RABI's new app.
Nice. Well, should we jump straight into their conversation?
Let's go.
So we're joined now by Ben Smith and Lucy Saker. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello, nice to be here.
Good morning, thank you for having us.
Ben, can you kick us off with your story, please?
Yeah, years ago when I was early 20s, went out servicing a combine, usual routine really, just same thing, standard day, on my own. Yeah, just sat doing something to a combine and using a hammer, and the hammer splintered into my eye. Piece of metal went and yeah, caused a bit of pain to start with and a bit of blurry eyed and a bit of blood, as you'd expect. Went to the hospital that night. Yeah, said I just basically something glanced off my eye. It sort of went from there really, with just one thing and another. It caused a lot of impact damage, and it went on for 4 or 5 years of them doing little bits, lasering it and detached retinas and bit of all sorts really. And then after about 5 years, they decided, because my eye changed colour, that the metal actually was still in my eye. So the surgeon decided it was time he went in and had a bit of a fish about and repair some damage, and fished the piece of metal out, which was frighteningly big. They operated 5 times that year trying to save my sight. In the end, gave up and just said that was it really. You'd have to live with partial sightness in that eye. It's sort of one of them things that you sort of, mid to late 20s going, one eye now, that'll change things, but you sort of get used to it and carry on. So I did do for 5 or 6 years after that, on and off pain and bits and bats and checkups, and in the end it woke up one morning, it was infected, to go and see the specialist, and he turned around and said, we'll take it out in a few days time because that's not going to mend itself. So took it out and gave me a false eye really. That's all down to not wearing safety goggles.
Blimey.
You were mentioning before that it's grabbing the goggles. So why, I guess, that day did you not have the correct PPE on?
Just purely just getting on with the job and wanting to be finished. Time was kicking on and I wasn't doing something where you'd think, I was tapping with a hammer, I wasn't smashing it, I wasn't really smashing anything hard with it. Never thought that it would happen. You just sort of get on with it and you take these little risks trying to save a bit of time, and unfortunately it cost me a lot.
Have you changed any practices since? Do you
always wear safety goggles when using a hammer and grinders and things. Obviously only having one, it sort of makes you think a little bit.
Yeah, I've been to some farms where you see angle grinders with the guards off, and it puts my teeth on edge every time. But I think, like you said, you're trying to rush to get the job done because obviously harvest is a high pressure time, especially if the weather's changing and that type of thing. And you skip over something to try and get the job done, but actually it's not a long-term benefit. Following your experience, what would you do differently if you could go back to that day? And what do you do differently now?
I would put my goggles on. It would have saved me a lot of wasted time and pain, definitely. Just by putting a pair of £3 goggles on.
You know when you see somebody doing something and you think, God, just put those goggles on. Do you call them out on it now? Do you say like, oi, goggles, put them on?
Yeah, I do. Especially lads kicking about when working with us and that. Yeah, just with plenty of goggles kicking about, just put them on. Often shouting at them to, it's only 2 minutes, but 2 minutes cost me a lot of time. So, yeah.
When we look at the stats, we're focused on fatalities in agriculture, but if you look at the HSE stats, they estimate there's 8,000 injuries a year in agriculture, which is pretty outstanding, isn't it? And I think yours is a really good case of, although it was a relatively small accident at the time, the impact it's had for a number of years huge, isn't it?
Like myself, I have fingers I have no feeling in and things like that from other accidents, and you nip your hands and bits of injuries here and there. It happens. It's joys of machinery. It bites.
You mentioned you were working on your own. That leads us really well into asking you about the app, Lucy. So FarmersAid, what is it and how does it work in practice? And also, how could it have helped Ben in the same situation?
Yes, so FarmersAid is our new app that RABI, the Farmers Charity, has just launched. It's to help people with step-by-step guidance for those serious on-farm accidents, the accidents that only really happen on farms, the niche things like getting your arm stuck in a baler, for example, or being crushed by an animal. They're not the kind of things that are generally included in a general first aid app. It's not to replace the emergency services, it's to buy more time before the emergency services arrive. So we know that because of the rural locations of many farms and other countryside areas, it takes a lot longer for the emergency services to arrive. So it's very, very important to have some knowledge and some skill for bystanders and those first responders to do something in those first few minutes before the emergency services arrive. So in Ben's case, it could have been that Ben said that he went to hospital that night. It might be that if they'd have had the FarmersAid app, they would have looked through, and whoever had found Ben or got to Ben would have known that that would have been more of an emergency maybe. If Ben had had a serious bleed, then the app could help to give instruction on how to stem that bleed. And all of those sort of tips and hints and skills that people need to save those lives. But in a moment of panic and high stress, your brain goes completely blank and you can't remember what you're supposed to be doing, who you're supposed to be calling, what the first thing to do is. So the point of the app is to have something in your hand with step-by-step really clear guidance to help in those panicked few minutes.
We first sort of saw this as the NFU when you came to our conference back in February, and it went down really well with members. I had some great feedback straight off the back of that, and you were also I saw you've been at Farm Fest, sort of promoting the launch as well. How has it been received by sort of the farming community so far?
We've been all over the place so far this summer. We're still going. We're at all the different shows this summer. So if you're around at Great Yorkshire or Royal Welsh or any of the other shows over the summer, please come and see us on the stand. We've had an absolutely brilliant response from general members of the public to politicians to major stakeholders such as NFU. It's been fantastic. We are really, really pleased with the response that we've had. And it's lovely to hear people come to the stand and tell us their stories and say, you know, this is a brilliant idea. If only we'd have had the app. And that really fills us with confidence that this will make a difference in the future.
Ben, you've got apprentices that work for you, and reading the notes, you would now insist that they wear the correct PPE. Would this app be something that you'd encourage them to download as part of their farm safety arsenal?
Yeah, anything that helps and just gives them a bit of, if something does go wrong, give them a bit of guidance. It's one of the things that does happen in our industry. It's a dangerous thing to be in, so every little bit helps, definitely.
Ben, the NFU had a big campaign that launched last year, Take 5 to Stay Alive. What would your Take 5 to Stay Alive be for other farmers going forwards?
Just think, sort of stand back for 2 minutes and just think, that could go wrong. What can I do to not, basically? Just keep yourself safe and look after them that work for you, and take your time, don't rush. It doesn't always pay.
And Lucy, what about you?
I think my top tip would be please download the app, have a look at it beforehand, prepare yourself. You'll find in the app some really great tips about how to prepare yourself, your farm and your phone to keep yourselves as safe as possible, and just to take those precautions. We're not saying the app's going to fix the number of accidents that happen. We want everybody to take those precautions and be as prepared as possible. But should something awful happen, then the app will be there to help you.
Well, Naomi, look, I think that's really a really poignant chat ahead of harvest and ahead of Farm Safety Week, which is the 20th to 24th of July. How do you manage safety on your farm? Do you do anything special?
I'm really wary of pretty much everything. I find, like, even sheep pins and things like that, I don't know, I think maybe because I wasn't brought up on a farm, I might be more wary about it. That said, I did have possibly the worst bruise of my life on my elbow from falling skateboarding the other week. And that's now made me put on elbow pads. So, yes, that's made me think. What about you, Josh? Because you go on to a lot of other people's farms.
We have been doing our pre-harvest health and safety events across the country the last few weeks. They're still going on. So yeah, if members are listening and you see them advertised, please jump on. They're really good. Just sort of a morning, tend to be in the morning. Good few hours to sort of reset your brain ahead of harvest and get yourself safe to get the crops in.
I'd like just to take the chance, I suppose, to really, anybody listening to this podcast, if we can save one person from, a minor accident, an accident, or even a fatality, just think about all those people around you that will really miss you, or the rest of your life. Like Ben said, that one thing, he didn't think it was a danger, but it's impacted him for 5 years and then also the rest of his life. And you guys are so important to everybody that's around you. It's just not worth the risk. Just take that extra 5 minutes to do things safely.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Naomi. And now we're going to move on to our Westminster team. There's been lots going on in the world of politics. So let's jump across and get an update for them now.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Westminster section. It's Scott Pepe, Head of External Affairs.
Joe Osborne, External Affairs Advisor.
And Joe, every time we start this podcast, I feel like we say it's been a busy, significant time in Westminster with lots of developments, and that is true again, isn't it? Our listeners will be sick of us saying it. Can you give us an overview of what's been happening and the work the NFU has been doing?
As everyone will know, following the election of Andy Burnham in the Makerfield by-election, on Monday the 22nd of June, we saw the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, announce that he's intending to resign. And that's both from being the PM, but also the leader of the Labour Party. And he set out a timetable for that departure. So what this has done is it's triggered a leadership contest within the Labour Party. And we now have a really clear timeline for what that's going to look like.
Yes, Joe, and at time of recording, nominations for the leader of the Labour Party and therefore our new Prime Minister have just opened.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Nominations have opened and Labour MPs are eligible to become candidates. There's a process now in place. If one candidate runs for the leadership, then we'll see the winner announced on the 17th of July. However, if there is more than one eligible candidate, then a voting process is going to take place over the summer, concluding on the 29th of August, so we'll have a new PM by the time that Parliament returns for autumn.
Yes, and to become a candidate, an MP will need the backing of 20% of the Parliamentary Labour Party. That's 81 MPs. And at the moment, listeners, you will already know this, there is only one declared candidate for next leader of the Labour Party, and that is Andy Burnham, the new MP for Makerfield and former Manchester Mayor. Now, what our members will expect, Joe, is that the NFU has been on the front foot lobbying Andy Burnham and any other candidate that might run in the Labour leadership election. Can you tell us what the NFU has done today to represent farmers' views at the forefront of the campaign?
So today, as we record this on the 9th of July, and as nominations are opening for the leadership of the Labour Party, the NFU has partnered with the British Retail Consortium, the Food and Drink Federation, and the UK Hospitality as the leading representatives of the agri-food and drink sector to produce a 5-point plan for a resilient food system. This plan has gone out to all Labour MPs today, alongside an open letter to candidates calling on the next Prime Minister to work with the industry and build a food system fit for the future.
That is absolutely right, Joe. We often work with those organisations, as you say, those leading organisations, the BRC, FGF, UK Hospitality, together, the leading representatives of Britain's food and drink industry, worth over £153 billion to the UK economy, employing 4 million people. That's 1 in 9 jobs in the UK involved somehow in the food and drink sector from farm to fork. So that, as we often say, a bigger manufacturing industry than aerospace and cars combined. So the new Prime Minister should listen to us. If listeners want to see the plan in full, then they can go on to NFU Online and read it there alongside the open letter which has gone to Andy Burnham and will go to any other candidate. So the plan talks about 5 things. Delivering value for the public. That's about working with the supply chain to reduce pressures on it, including taxation, regulation, and of course fairness in the supply chain. There's EU realignment. We've done a long episode, you and I, Joe, on EU alignment and the challenges and opportunities of the government's renegotiation with the European Union. We need to make sure that that minimises disruption, secures the carve-outs that our members need, and also that we get a decent transition. There's planning. Planning. I spend a lot of my time thinking about planning. If I had a magic wand, Joe, the one thing I would change is the planning system. Our members desperately need, I know when you speak to members, they tell you the same, a more permissible system which enables investment, growth and adaptation, allows farmers to grow food and grow their businesses. People as well. We have a shortage in skilled and seasonal labour, so we're calling for a sector workforce strategy and, of course, calling for the new Prime Minister to ensure that we get those seasonal workers we need for the 2027 season. And lastly, investment and growth. We need the new Prime Minister and their government to explore all levers to drive investment and growth, and that includes things like tax incentives, regulation again, things that levers the government could pull to make it easier for our members to grow their businesses.
Launching this 5-point plan now, as we enter into the summer season, really helps to maintain our political momentum, keep farming on the agenda, and it's all about building this drumbeat of political activity throughout the year. And with an incoming Prime Minister over the summer, as we move towards Back British Farming Day in September and then the autumn budget, it's all about delivering for our members and showing that we get farming on the agenda at every possible opportunity.
Exactly that. And we know that we're busy here lobbying in Westminster, but over the summer, of course, our big lobbyists become our members. We've already got loads and loads of MP visits booked in over the summer. I would encourage every listener to get in touch with their MP, either directly or with the help of their NFU county advisor. It really is a crucial time for the industry. And with a new government, we need MPs out on farm to understand the issues. And if you are successful in getting an MP out on farm and would like to chat to a member of the EA team, either about this plan or about any other NFU policy, then please do get in touch. It really is all about tying everything we do, whether that's lobbying in Westminster or getting MPs out on farm, back to enabling profitable farming businesses for you, our members. And Joe, one of the things that you've been doing towards the end of last week was another food and farming fellowship visit. So we spend so much of our time on these episodes talking about the political chaos, but it's really important that we get on with the day job as well. And Joe, you were taking MPs out on farm last Friday.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the Food and Farming Fellowship Scheme is operated by the NFU in partnership with other agricultural businesses and stakeholders. And what it does is it takes MPs elected for the first time in 2024 out on tours across the food and farming supply chain. And last Friday, we took 5 MPs to Barfoot's in Sussex to explore the horticulture supply chain.
And what did MPs get up to at Barfoot's?
So MPs walked the fields where Barfoot's are growing tender stem broccoli and courgettes. We went and visited the reservoir, their processing factory, and also looked at an AD plant.
It's really good to bring those things to life. I mean, how often are we talking about reservoirs at the moment, the need for greater permitted development powers for reservoirs, and it's all very well reading that in one of our excellent briefings, but there is no substitution to getting an MP to see in real life what this infrastructure looks like.
And on the visit, we spoke to MPs about all the key issues that are facing the horticulture sector. You know, supply chain fairness, the work of government regulators such as the Environment Agency, the importance of seasonal workers, and as you've just been mentioning, the difficulties getting planning permission. And it's really positive and encouraging to see off the back of that visit, we've already had MPs engaging on some of those key issues.
So we had, So Ben Goldsborough, the Labour MP for South Norfolk, was one of those MPs you took out on farm. By coincidence, who was he seeing on Tuesday but Emma Reynolds, who our Secretary of State, who was in front of the EFRA Select Committee. And Ben, drawing on his experience from the visit, asked loads of really quite technical, detailed horticulture sector questions to the Secretary of State. So it was great to see the join up there of the farm visit organised by the NFU and an MP taking that experience and using it to question the Secretary of State. But that's not the only thing that's happened as a result of that visit, Joe.
No, we've also had Josh Fenton Glynn, who's the Labour MP for Calder Valley, tabling a question to the Home Secretary on when the government is going to announce the number of seasonal workers for 2027, giving the horticultural sector some much needed certainty as they move into the winter period.
Yeah, really, really great. And just another example of how MPs take what they see at the coalface on farm and go and lobby on our behalf, and that's why it's so important to get MPs out on farm over the summer. Again, if you've never hosted an MP on farm and you're thinking that this might be the summer you do it, then there's guidance about how to organise a farm visit and the support the NFU can give you on NFU Online. So it was really good to see that engagement paying off, and despite all the chaos, just to reassure you really that the machinery of government has continued. Emma Reynolds is still the Secretary of State, Stephen Morgan is still the Farming Minister, and parliamentary business continues. So just this week there's been a debate in the House of Lords about national resilience and public procurement. We've briefed peers about that. Joe, it was DEFRA questions this morning, wasn't it? Emma Reynolds was in the House of Commons with her ministerial team. We had lots of hot topics come up then as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we've already mentioned the EFRA Select Committee session where Ben Goldsborough was asking questions of the Secretary of State. And I thought it was very noticeable that even within that session, the NFU was name-checked 6 times, showing just how engaged we are in this process.
That's great. You really were watching closely, Joe. It's well worth a watch, actually, because lots of those topics come up. And Alistair Carmichael, the chair of the committee, particularly robust with the Secretary of State on planning, which, as you will have picked up, is a continued frustration for us as well as it is for you. And, of course, MP visits have continued. It was groundswell last week. We had the Farming Minister, Stephen Morgan, on our stand. We had Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the opposition, on our stand, and obviously Great Yorkshire Show coming up with the Secretary of State visiting and lots of other politicians as well. And then we go into proper MP visit season during harvest and then into September. So MPs are breaking up for their summer recess in a few weeks, and we are breaking up too. Because Parliament won't be sitting until roughly the first week of September. So that means we won't have much to report on in terms of Westminster business, but we will, of course, be working with regional colleagues and others to get as many MPs out on farm. So thank you so much for bearing with us during the political chaos of the last year. We really hope that we've been able to lift the lid on some of the dark magic we run behind the scenes and sometimes in front of the cameras at Westminster. Hope you have a very safe summer, and we'll be back with you reporting on all things Westminster in September.
Has Westminster ever had a quiet week since we started recording this podcast? Another chock-a-block week. So Josh, my husband's also called Josh, and one of his favourite films is Chicken Run. So now we're going to go over to our next guest, who is going to talk all about chickens, and I'm sure when my husband joins in, he'll be more than happy to learn more about them.
We're now joined by Ed Lanning, a second-generation 25-year-old poultry farmer from Devon. Ed, a huge welcome to the NFU Shed Talks podcast. Can you just kick us off with a roundup of who you are and what the farming business you run looks like?
My name's Ed Lanning. I'm from, as Josh said, second-generation broiler farmer. The company's called Devonshire Poultry Limited. We're based in East Devon, but we run 8 sites in Devon, Somerset and Wiltshire, producing 1.3 million birds per cycle. I run one of our sites, which is actually in Wiltshire, which is currently undergoing, we're just coming to the end of a major refurb here, which I've been running the site, developing the performance on the site and project managing the refurb work at the same time. So it's kept me busy since December.
Nice. So was farming always a plan for you, or did you consider something else? Has this always been your goal to end up where you are now?
No, I've always wanted to be a farmer. My first word was tractor, so I think it was pretty much set from there, wasn't it, really? I did, for a while, I sort of looked at and considered being a poultry vet. I then decided I love being on the farm every day. I love being with the lot chicken. I just, couldn't get away from the sort of farming life, really.
So that initial passion, it led to Harper Adams. Tell us more about that. What did you study there? It
was the best 4 years ever, that was. I really enjoyed it. I did general ag at Harper Adams. I started in 2019 and graduated in 2023. I stayed with general ag. I didn't particularly want to narrow my options down when I was there. I wanted to keep it broad and enjoy doing the animal science modules and enjoy doing sort of crop science modules as well. That's why I chose general. Doesn't suit everybody. And I did my placement year in third year. I did with PD Hook Hatcheries to go and see a different part of the industry and understand what goes on before we get our chicks on farm, which I still relate back to that, and contacts I made doing that I still speak to regularly now.
So obviously you went away for that placement. Why did you want to come back to the family business after graduating? Why didn't you want to go elsewhere?
I did actually have a job lined up with PD Hook when I left my placement year. But this farm, Oakstone Farm that I run, came on the market in the June of 2023. And it's about half an hour from a big other side we've got. And obviously we were interested in it. And it was quite clear Oakstone wasn't just going to be running a broiler farm. There was a project there. There was the project to get the farm performance as high as possible. But also there was a project of the refurb and redeveloping the farm to as you see it today. And I didn't just want to run a broiler farm. I was like, if I can have a project to go with it and I can stand back in 3-4 years' time and go, I've done that. I've made the farm look like it does. I've made it perform like that. It gives you that extra job satisfaction and extra sort of pride, I suppose, when people turn up and everything they see you've sort of not done yourself, but done.
Yeah, I get that completely. And so Oakstone Farm, tell us more about, go into a bit of the detail of what you've done since you've been back to sort of upgrade it and get it to where it is today.
Well, to start with, with the sheds and the performance, we put LED lights into 2 of the sheds which didn't have them. One of the sheds has got the Signify Nature Dynamic lights in, which creates a jungle light for the chicken to recreate light like it would be more on the jungle floor, as chicken is naturally a jungle fowl living on the floor of the rainforest. So that's been a really good trial to do. Put new drinkers into 2 of the sheds under the government investment scheme. New water sanitising system, new water pumps, and just spending a lot of time in the sheds with the smoke machine, understanding the quirks of these sheds because they're 100 foot wide, they're abnormally wide for broiler sheds, understanding the quirks of them and just spending the time in there to get it right. And that's the biggest, time and effort was the biggest investment really to get the sheds performing. And in terms of the refurb, we're coming to the closing stages of it now. I've just built new staff facilities in the entrance. It's a new farm office with a kitchen, laundry, shower and vet's room all built into it. Biosecurity building opposite, concreted the entrance to the farm, redone the security in the front. I fitted a 880 kilowatt biomass heating system, which has just come online.
Yeah.
190 kilowatts of solar on the roof, so we're 43% self-sufficient in electric. And literally this week, we've just finished concreting the whole yard, which is, we get to find out exactly, but about 1,400 square metres of concrete we've put down in the last week.
Love a bit of concrete. It's a satisfying task, isn't it? You've obviously made a lot of decisions since you've been back. How's that worked with that sort of family relationship? Have you been given full responsibility or to make your own decisions, or how's that played out?
I've been really fortunate with it, really. As a family, we get on really well together. We all have the same view and same drive for where we want the business to go. I've been let to be the driving force and decision maker behind it. But then if ever I'm not sure or anything like that, Mum, Dad and I always speak and make the best decision. Sort of with what we were doing with the refurb work here, obviously there's a massive investment involved in it. So that was a group decision with all of us. Fitting the solar panels was a joint decision between us all, but altering things in the sheds and setting up the sheds to work properly, I'm here every day, so you just get on and do what you think.
Nice. I mean,
really. So,
I've had friends from uni that have gone back to the family farm. For some of them, it's worked really well, and others not so much. So, what would you say to other young people who are thinking about going back home to take on the family farm? What would your advice be?
you got to enjoy it, enjoy what you do. I just try and make sure I put my view across, but you've got to listen to each other's point of views,
Sure.
because in my case, it's mum and dad. They've got a lot more experience doing it than I have, so they might see something that I don't, or being young and enthusiastic, I might see or do things that perhaps they wouldn't. So it's listening to each other and communicating with each other all the time, not just going off and doing your own thing and then telling somebody afterwards.
I get the feel that you're super passionate about poultry, and it feels like quite an exciting time to be in poultry as a sector. Would you agree? And what do you think could be done to encourage more fresh talent into your sector?
I think it's a great time to be in it. The industry's doing really well at the moment. The UK is short of chicken, partly helped because we destocked all the sheds about 18 months ago. We destocked by 20%, which then creates a shortage, and you can't get planning permission to build that. The technology that's coming into the industry, it's fantastic. I was out in Holland at Utrecht, which is a European poultry show, beginning of June, and there was like robotic pressure washers that automatically wash the sheds. So I think to encourage new people in, we have to sell the technology we're using, sell the technology, and it's more than just being a farmer. It's a career path, and there's so many ways with it. If you start on farm, you can go, there's so many different ways you can go from the farm. If you like technology, you can go sort of down the supplying equipment route. It's the routes are endless, but as an industry, we have to sell what we do and sell the technology that we're using, and sort of how good the industry is and how good our standards are compared to other places.
I think so. I was in potatoes before, and it was incredibly satisfying seeing your potatoes on the shelf with your company's name in the supermarket, and people were buying it. And I know you're passionate about the product you produce. How does it feel seeing your product on the shelf?
Oh, it's great. I absolutely love it. Up until this crop, I've been growing the M&S Open Gold birds, and M&S put the farm name on it, like your potatoes. You'd catch all the chicken. About 3 days later, I'd go to the local M&S and go through the shelf to find mine. It's such a sense of pride when you see it with your farm name on, and you can just stand there and go, I've done that. And compared to what we eat as a country, it's a very, very small volume, but you've given that bit of food for, when I was growing for M&S, those 100,000 Sunday roast dinners, or however the chicken end up.
I'm that weirdo taking photos of the potato packaging. I call it potato spotting in the supermarket.
I do the same with the chicken. I went to the checkout in M&S once with I had 3 of mine, and I put it on the thing and said to the cashier, I was like, this is my chicken. She looked at me like I had 5 heads and said, I only need to scan it, I'll give it back to you in a minute. I was like, no, it's mine. I was the farmer that grew it. And you get such a sense of pride when you see it.
Talking about the future, so the NFU has recently joined a working group, and we're putting together a poultry sector growth plan, and that's part of a wider industry-wide sort of farm and food partnership board. It's all about driving long-term improvements in productivity, profitability, food security. What would you like to see in a sector growth plan for poultry? What would your sort of input be on that?
I think the biggest thing would be maintaining the margins, so it allows us as a farmer to be able to invest in the farm, be able to invest in the new technology that's coming. And it's got to be an ease in planning regulations. I've had a planning application in here since October to put 3 extensions on the back of existing buildings, and we still haven't got it. The poultry industry in the UK cannot grow if we can't build the sheds. It's very much becomes a handbrake on the whole thing. I get they have to be regulated, and it has to be done responsibly and sensibly. And the industry growth has to be sustainable. You can't have a massive growth and then you end up going into oversupply, and then it's not sustainable, is it? But
Sure.
it's being able to, where you can and in the right places, build.
You've got contracts with M&S. There must be a demand out there for more chicken. Planning for more sheds can only make sense.
Yeah, we grow for Tuag and Avara, and they're both short. They're both short of chicken. They both want more, but
Sure.
we want to give them more. We want to build more sheds, and we want to make farms bigger. But if it's July, August, September, we're 9 months into getting planning and still nowhere. And then I've got to build the sheds and put the equipment in them. So we're still a year away from 2 years before you actually grow. Which, as a business that wants to develop and wants to grow, it's painfully slow.
Well, look, Ed, it's been brilliant to have you on the pod. Thank you for joining, and we'll look forward to catching up again in the future.
No, thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed doing it.
And that's it. That's the end of season 1 of Shed Talks. You guys are going to miss us over the summer, I bet.
Or catching up on us as everyone's sat in their tractors busily harvesting away. We'll probably binge listening to Shed Talks, hopefully.
And what was your highlight of season 1?
I quite enjoyed when we went over to the States and listened to. That was wild, wasn't it? Like, it got our minds racing with Yellowstone. We loved it, didn't we?
Oh, the harvest over in the States. I honestly thought you were going to go conference. My favourite, I really liked talking flower farming. I loved it. And I did exactly what I was not meant to do. And I went out and I planted packets and packets of seeds. And now my garden looks like a garden centre.
I enjoyed that a lot. And particularly as we're growing flowers for our soon-to-be wedding. That was really good, actually. Yeah, feedback from members on that was really good too. So, it was good to celebrate sort of a up-and-coming British crop, actually. Yeah, it was good.
Don't know if this sounds slightly vain, but I did listen to that episode again. Not because I wanted to listen to myself, but I could have talked hours about flowers. So, yeah, but so much to pick from and so many great guests and hopefully more to come.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be back and we'll have loads of new guests to speak to. So, yeah, looking forward to another season of Shed Talks.
And it's now time to say our goodbyes. So thank you very much for listening to season 1 and we'll see you very soon.
And as always, for more information about everything we've talked about today, jump to our show notes and it's all in there. But for now, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.